Hello everyone, my name is Jitendra Bapna. I am working as a principal architect for the API Zero. I have overall 12 plus years of experience in the integration in the API technology. I have good experience in implementing the projects like open banking, PSD2, various banking digitalization solution. So in this webinar, I would like to share whatever knowledge I got related to banking in last 3 4 years. So we will going to discuss what is the open banking, what is PSD2, what are the various component of the open banking. So basically there are various use cases that we need to implement to achieve the open banking or the digitalization. So open banking is the one of the best example that how bank can move towards the digitalization. So there are the various legacy bank, or I will not say legacy banks, there are various bank which are running on the legacy system. So how they can leverage integration technology like MuleSoft to to expose the data or in the form of APIs, in the form of the APIs. Okay, so what is the open banking? So open banking is nothing like, let me first present it. So open banking basically, the financial institution or bank expose the API which can be consumed by any third party or third party developer to create a mobile application or web application or any sort of application. So if any third party developer or any third party provider is consuming the API, they need to consume the API securely. They cannot access any customer data without the consent of the customer, or like without without any security check. There can be a various security check involved, you know uh, in such process. So here I have a small diagram which shows like a bank has exposed the open banking API, which is connect to various core banking system. So in banking there can be any legacy core banking system, can be modern, core banking system. So any third party developer consume those API, and develop the mobile application or the web application. Okay, so what will happen to this? In that case, it's benefits to bank. So it will definitely increase the revenue, as like if what customer wants, they want, they can easily access their data, right, without without doing much. So they simply log into mobile app and they should able to see their account detail, transaction statement. Even they can initiate the payments very easily. So it is good for the bank, like any third party consumer developing the mobile application on the behalf of bank, and they are exposing, they're asking third party to come on our portal, and you can see the banking, your bank's data. It will increase the customer reach. It will definitely increase the revenue, because number of, if bank have a mobile application, if you can easily, and it will increase the customer base for the bank. Okay, so I want to explain one of the use case here. Okay, so basically let's consider there are a lot of bank, okay, which are running on the legacy system. Okay, and now, so what is the best thing? Open banking. And open banking is the one of the best thing. So you have a set of guidelines already set up by the open banking specification. So you can implement those guidelines, you can implement those API to leverage the open banking. Okay, let me come give an example. So I have a bank, okay, having the some AS400 system, some XYZ system, some legacy system, okay, some like mainframes and all those things. So I cannot express those data directly to the customer. Okay, there should be some process, there should some way exposing those data. Here you can leverage the MuleSoft. So MuleSoft provide various connector to connect to AS4, connect AS4 system to any legacy or mainframe system. So you can develop a layer on the top of your legacy system, that is the API layer. So we talk about three layered architecture, which is system API, process API, and the experience API. So you can use that architecture and expose those API towards expose the API, and make sure those APIs are the open APIs, and make sure like you are implement all the security thing, like consent management, strong customer authentication, like you have a OAuth or dynamic client registration in the place. So we're going to see those things in the next slide. What open banking API does, so there are various things, like you can fetch the account balance, transaction statement details. Apart from that, you can initiate the payment, you can have a API for doing the fund confirmation. So it's like, even like, take the example, you're doing the shopping on the Amazon, and Amazon can also use this API, also can leverage those API to initiate the payment, to fetch the account details. Such kind of thing can be easily achieved using the open banking. So as we have already discussed, it will increase the digital revenue with the open banking APIs, improve overall customer experience, right? It will definitely improve the customer experience. And open banking API enhance the services. Definitely, you are giving mobile application, you are giving the web application, even like you can access, like customer can access your data from any third party application, okay, securely. So it definitely enhance the service for your customer, and it will definitely increase the revenue and the number of customers for the bank. And like, looking at the today's in modern era, so there are a lot of competition going, there are a lot of banks, and there are a lot of competition is going between the banks. So it's a pressure on each and every bank to move toward the digitalization, to have a which I have discussed many times, like mobile application. What customer wants, like, I do payment in just one click, or such kind of thing should be in the place. So here you can use the open banking. PSD2, it's nothing, it's a payment system directive 2. So basically, in Europe, there's a legal compliance where each and every bank has to move towards the open banking. Okay, like towards the PSD2 specification. PSD2 is nothing, it's a based on the open banking only. So every bank has to move towards the PSD2 compliance. So it's a legal compliance. So it's a mandatory compliance for each and every bank towards moves towards the open banking. So definition for the PSD2 and open banking remains same, but we need to understand some terminology which is very important to implement open banking or the PSD2. So there are something called, first, it's a PSU. PSU is nothing, he's a customer of the bank. Third party provider, the third party provider who will going to consume the bank API. So he can act as a AISP, that is account information service provider. So there are various APIs in the account information service provider. Like, one is fetch the account detail, fetch the balance detail, fetch the transaction detail, fetch the statement details. Then payment initiation service provider. Here, like, you can initiate the domestic as well as the international payment. Issuer instrumentation service provider. So it also known as CBPII. So in open banking terms, you can call it CBPI. PSD call it PISP. So there is a single API which is the fund confirmation API. So like, if you are doing the shopping or the e-commerce, so first what e-commerce will do, first it will go and do the fund confirmation, whether the funds available for that particular user or particular customer in the account. If yes, then it will initiate the payment. Let let understand those components which are very important. AISP, account information service provider, which I've already explained what is this. Account information service provider have multiple APIs. It start with multi accounts, so you can fetch all the accounts of your customer. You can fetch a single account, you can fetch the balance, transaction statements, there are many other things. PISP, it's a payment information service provider. Basically, it is used to initiate the payment. It can be domestic payment, it can be international payment. So there are separate APIs for domestic payment and the international payment. PIISP and CBPII. So as I mentioned, PSD2 called it PIISP and open banking called it CBPII. So payment is instrumentation information service provider or card-based payment instrument service provider. PSU, it's nothing, he's a customer of the bank. TPP is a third party provider. SCA is a strong customer authentication, we will going to discuss in next slide. ASP, it's nothing, account service payment service provider. It's a bank, it's a financial institution. Okay, it's a bank basically. Now we need to understand this flow, TPP identification. Now, how bank will do the TPP identification? How bank will know this is if bank wants to consume the API? So bank should know, like, this is the correct, no, it's a legal TPP, it's a legal third party provider. So in that case, what will happen? Okay, so TPP, just like issue PSD2 authorization. So first step, National Certificate Authority will issue PSD2 authorization. So basically, it gives some authorization number to TPP. Okay. So TPP has to register with NCA, that is National Certificate Authority. So it will generate one authorization number or one TPP number. It will give the TPP. TPP send create a CSR plus other info, that's authorization number which we get from the NCA. It create a CSR. CSR is nothing, certificate signing request, and it's sent to Q2SP. It's a qualified trust service provider. Okay, so qualified trust service provider will check, that whatever CSR info we are sending. So it also contain authorization number. It will check with NCA. NCA will say yes, is a correct user. He's already registered with NCA. Then Q2SP will send the certificate. It will issue the certificate to TPP. Now TPP will send this whenever he send a request for any API call or anything, it will send that certificate with request to the ASPSP, and ASPPSP will validate with that certificate with QTSP. So there is some concept of dynamic client registration. So basically, you might be aware of the OAuth. So for doing the OAuth, you require client ID and the client secret. So first TPP get dynamically registered with ASP PSP. Okay, so once he get dynamically registered with ASP PSP, that is bank, it also provide, present the certificate to make sure like he's the correct for the to bank to make sure he's the correct guy. Okay, so it provide the certificate, and TPP send the kind dynamic client registration request to ASP PSP. ASP PSP validate whether it's a correct user or legal TPP. Then it issue a client ID and the client secret which he can use for the OAuth. Okay, so this is how a TPP can be identified by the bank. Consent management. Let's consider, would you like, somebody access your account without your consent? You will not like it, right? Nobody will like it. It's not secure way. Like somebody, try like Amazon. You haven't asked Amazon, or sorry, I will not take. You haven't asked any third party provider to access your account, right? You will not like it, correct? So like any third party provider cannot access your account without your consent. Okay, so let me do one thing, like let me explain how it's work. So user come to third party provider website. Now user want to access those API via that third party provider or third party web portal or mobile application. So third party will access those data from bank will redirect user for authorization. So where, bank will redirect user for authorization, like where bank will put, user will put it username and a password, the account details which are registered with bank. It may be anything like any username and password or whatever we will see. That is the strong customer authentication. Here bank is making sure that the correct customer is giving the consent to the third party. Once it got successfully approved, so it will display the consent data on the third party provider website. So user will approve that. Okay, and then bank will return data to the third party provider. This is how it works. So basically what will happen, let I want to access the account detail. I have registered with some of the bank, XYZ bank. Okay, so I have login to any third party provider portal or mobile application, then that third party provider is capable of connecting any bank in that particular region. I log into that bank, I select that bank, XYZ bank, where I have got registered, and I want to fetch all my accounts from that particular bank. So in that case, third party provider will connect to that bank, and as soon as third party connect to that bank, okay, so what will happen now, bank, the user has come on the third party provider for the first time. So the bank will redirect that third party provider or for that particular user to get login with that bank. So user will put its username and the password which get registered with that bank. Once that username and password has been validated, it will display the consent data on the third party provider. So it will display some consent data where it will say, it will ask the user for how many day you want to access those data from this particular TPP or this third party provider. So you select, yeah, I can see that, I can see transaction, I can see statement. You can provide such kind of, you can select the source, those permission. Okay, and once you select, and you will say I want to see those data for 45 days. Whenever I come onto this portal, I see those data for 45 days. Okay, so bank will register those things, and it will return data. Now second time when you come back to third party provider, so you don't have to do again all those things. You simply come to third party provider, okay, and you will able to see whatever access, whatever consent you have given last time. You will able to see all those data for next 45 days. So after 45 days, what will happen? You have to create a new consent. That is how here we are achieving both strong customer authentication as well as the consent management. 1 minute. Okay. So these are the some consent management API. So you have to create the consent. So we will going to see, like, I have MuleSoft developer portal. So you can create the consent, you can get the consent, and even you can delete the consent. Okay. These are the three APIs for account consent management. What is strong customer authentication? As I mentioned, like any user going to third party provider, and how bank will know he is my customer, where the strong customer authentication come into the picture. So when third party try to access the data from the bank will redirect the third party to its login page, where he has to put it username and the password. The user has to put the username and password. Once he get authenticated, then bank will do the further processing. Otherwise, everything will it will get unauthorized. So there are various ways. Something the customer knows. So what customer knows? He may know his username and the password. Something customer has, like phone and hardware token, like you can use your phone and you can use any third party things to get login into the account, such kind of thing. Some the customer is, it can be your finger, retina, or face recognition. So that is how you can do the customer strong customer authentication. And okay, the next, this is how a AISP looks. So what AISP offer account information service to the private individual. Customer AISP want to obtain the account information over his bank account at a bank ASP. Customer visit his bank mobile app on any web app which we have discussed. You can go to any third party web portal and try to access the APIs. Customer will authorize AISP within the mobile app or the web app. We have seen that, like, there's a mechanism called strong customer authentication, and there's a mechanism called consent management, and even the third party will get authorized using that OAuth security. So we have seen that AISP can gather the customer information from PSP to display it connection. So, so what is the advantage of implementing this case? Let's consider you are the customer and you have an account in the three banks, right? So you will create a separate three consent with all the bank. Okay. So whenever next time you will come there, or on any third party provider which is AISP, so you will see all the bank account details at a single place. You don't have to go to log in to each and every bank. You can see all your data at a single web application or the mobile application. Yeah, you have to make sure you have created a consent with each and every bank. That's a one thing. Okay. And like AISP or TPP has to be registered with all the three banks. These are some AISP APIs. So basically fetch all the account details. So where grant type we use as an authorization code, fetch a single account. Then we have some balance API. So you can fetch the balance detail. So credit card balance detail, it maybe have some, what is your limit, available limit, how much, what is your credit limit, what is your credit user, such kind of balance is available. There are some more ASP APIs which is transactions. So you can fetch a single transaction and you can fetch a multiple transaction on the basis of account ID. Same goes with statement. You can fetch a single statement and even you can fetch the multiple statement. Now here, see, this is the screenshot. So this is my web application. Here you can see TPP AISP. So now TPP is acting as a AISP, account information service provider. So here if you see list of the bank, you select the bank from here. Once you select the bank from here, the customer will do strong customer authentication for with that particular bank. So customer, whatever authentication has been set up on the bank, either like it can be any fingerprint recognition, it can be direct username password. Once you get authentication, all data will be displayed here related to that particular bank. You can create the consent. Once you create the consent, you got registered with that particular TPP. So we have received the following information from your attached account at a ASP. So this is how no, this is how your screen will look like mostly. Once you get authenticate, you will see all your account. You can select the account for which you need to give a consent. Then you, below there will be permission, what type of kind of permission you need to give. Then you create the consent, and once you create the consent, you can successfully able to see the data whenever you come on a third party or anywhere. Okay. PISP. So PISP is nothing, it's a payment initiation service provider. So basically you can initiate the payment. You can initiate the international payment or the domestic payment. So basically here also you have to create the consent for your payment. So first, PSU, it's nothing, customer will come to PISP, that is the third party provider. PISP, will set up the payment order consent. First, PISP has to set up the consent for that particular PSU. So he need to take the permission from PSU whether I can initiate a payment on your behalf. So one PSU authorize the consent, then okay, then it will confirm the fund. That is PISP. Okay. So now PSU say yes, you can do the payment on my behalf. Then PISP will check the payment, call the fund confirmation API. Then it will create the payment. Okay, and then he can get the payment status, like whether payment has been authorized or not. So that is how the payment information service provider flow works. So here you can see the screenshot. So similarly, like here also, like you it will show the list of the accounts. You can select the account, then you have to get authentic, you have to give a consent, then you do have to do the strong customer authentication, and then you have successfully done the payment with your bank. So basically you have gone to like doing the shopping, any e-commerce website or maybe Amazon or anything. You have done the shopping. Now it will display the account from which you have to do the payment, list of the account in all the banks, because you have already give the consent in your AISP. Yeah, this is my account and you can access those my account. It will show those account. You select that account. Okay, so you will say yes, I am giving the consent for 45 days. Whenever I come for next 45 days, I can do the payment directly. I don't have to create the consent every time. For first time you have to do the strong customer authentication. Once you have done all those things, you have set up all those things. So when the next time you will come, you select this account, it will automatically do the payment on your behalf. It's very secure. Here you are doing the consent management, even TPP get identified, even then there's a consent management. So there are various API, domestic payment consent, domestic, you can create the payment, domestic payment. You can get the status of your payment. Then similarly, we have some foreign international payment. So basically, you can create the international payment. You can fetch the status of international payment. Then CBPII. So that is basically a fund confirmation API. Where PSU, it's a customer, and it sometimes it's also known as PISP, will agree for fund confirmation. The CBPI or third party will create a consent for him. He will authorize the consent, PSU. Once consent has been authorized, then we have already seen it will initiate the payment. Okay, that we have already seen in PISP. It's a similar flow. So there is a single API in CBPI API, that is the fund confirmation. And this is how you can use the MuleSoft. So here architecture. So at the back, this is my system API. You have all like a customer API, core banking API, consent management. Okay. Or and like you have a various backend system, legacy backend, AS400, whatever. So you will create one system layer on the top of that. Then we have some process API where we do transformation, like we're fetching data from legacy system in some format. We do the transformation, we apply some logic or business rules here. Then we have experience API where you have some mobile application, e-commerce site, all can act as a account information service provider, payment information service provider. Even if you want to do the registration, that is the TPP registration. Then consent management, such kind of, even OAuth security like API manager, all such kind of thing you can implement using MuleSoft. Let me show you. This is the architecture. Let me go to the Anypoint platform and let me go to my developer portal. See, here I've created some APIs related to banking. Let me go to public portal first. This is my open banking portal. So where like I'm mentioning, like open banking is a concept of a financial services based on the several principles. That's what allowing the third party to access the APIs. Okay. So first thing, this is the account consent API. So as I mentioned, you can create the account consent here, like you can give the list of the permission, like whether you can read the account detail, you can read, third party can read the balance, like or transaction, whatever. So such this permission needs to be there. So once you have done this, and you provide like, yeah, I want only to page account data, I don't want to do the rest of the deal, I am not giving the consent for this those thing, only I am giving the consent for account detail. So it is enough, like okay, then send. So once you send it, it create the consent for you, it return the consent ID. Even you can fetch the consent details. Okay. Let me copy the previous consent ID. Then we create it again. I'll copy this. This is just a demo. Like you can it can get the status for you. So like I have given this all this permission. Okay. So then what is the status? You can get the status. It's waiting for authorization. So once it get authorized, so it means consent has been done. Even if some, like there's a delete consent option also, some customer doesn't want to access the data, he feels like something is going wrong or something is not, I don't want third party provider to access my data, he can go and delete the consent, so third party will not access the data. Then account information service provider, so I have various API. So basically get account information, get the account information on the basis of account ID, balances, transactions and statement. This is how it works. So you can put something like this. So it will just fetch the account detail, so these are the all account information service provider API. So this is the MuleSoft developer portal. You can leverage MuleSoft to implement the open banking API. And now I will come to payment information service provider. So I mentioned CBPII. So this is my CBPII API. Okay, so where I will send this data, I want to check whether this for that particular customer this amount is available. I will send this request. He will say purchase zero, yes, true, funds available, yeah. So funds is available for that particular customer in the account. So this is CBPI. Then finally it comes to the payment information service provider. So where you can post the you can do the payments, post the payment. This is the request, and simply you can send it, and you can get the requested or something like that. So yeah, your payment has been initiated, and even you can get the domestic payment. So that's fine. Okay, so don't worry. Okay, so you can get the status of your payment, all those things. So let me show you one more thing. So how we can set up the dynamic client registration. So there's something called external identity, and you can go to client management, open it. So here, like MuleSoft, you can do the registration, like you can connect to any third party OAuth provider. It can be ping identity federation, it can be Okta, it can be OpenEAM, which is supported by MuleSoft. So basically it will allow to verify the certificate, and it to give the client ID and the client secret to the customer without any approval or anything. It will do all the verification for the third party provider, and even it will generate the client ID and the client secret automatically for your third party provider. Okay, so so there are everything is available here. So implement the open banking. So this is how you can implement open banking using MuleSoft or PSD2 using the MuleSoft. So just to summarize, so what we have discussed till now, we have discussed various use cases. There are three main use cases. One is EISP, one is PIISP or CBPII, and third is PISP. So EISP is nothing, account information service provider. It's a read-only API where you can fetch the account statement transaction details after customer consent and the authentication. Second, PISP, it's a fund confirmation API where payment instrumentation information service provider. Then PISP, so payment information service provider. So it's a various APIs where like you basically start with domestic payment and the international payment. So it's basically related to payment. You can initiate the payment using those API. Okay, so I hope you like this open banking session. So that I can give you some links, so you can go to Google and search for open banking UK specifications. So you can go to this documentation. So there are various documentation. This is one of the important documentation available. So you will get all the details, like for your open banking accounts, payment initiate API, consent API, all such kind of details is available on this. So you can go through this documentation. Okay. Yeah, thanks.